the realities of work and their future career opportunities.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this very great work? I mean, working with young people is not easy, I can tell you that. When you're working with kids who are teenagers who don't even know who they are at a certain age, between the age of 15, they're still confused about a lot of things that they want to do, what their goals should be, and what they should be doing for their future. So how have you been able to get these young kids to be focused and to have a clear mind of where to go and what they would like to do?
How long have I been doing it? I've been doing this probably predominantly just career guidance since 2012. Before that, I was teaching and I had an executive coaching role in a consultancy. But it was in 2012 that a group of teenagers approached me and asked me for career support. And until that point, I never really looked at it as my specialization. It had, until that point, had only really been the occasional conversation that I would have with parents and teens. But in 2012, the interest from this group of teens who were looking for support with their careers and work experience got me committed and really driven to want to help them, and then eventually became what I did from day to day, every day.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about that. This is a passion. I can understand that, because this is not for everybody, this type of work, because it can be tedious at times. It can be very challenging, especially when you're dealing with parents on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have the students where you have to work with them and trying to get them to focus on the tasks at hand. So how have you been able to bridge the gap between dealing with parents and the students at the same time, and to get your work done and still be successful at doing that?
I think I want to backtrack on the part that you were saying it's clearly a passion. For me, Jean-Louis, it is work that I'm very committed and driven to do. I wouldn't call it my passion, because I think that word is really overused by too many professionals across the globe. And I think that it's important to understand that work, any type of work where we're helping individuals, either in a teaching capacity, a counseling capacity, a coaching capacity, or any other form of work where we're helping another person, I think or I can only talk for myself, I'm driven to pursue and stay on the course, because I believe in the mission of the work. And that mission is to help young people find career readiness. And I come to that perspective both as an educator and also as a parent. I had three teenagers. I've seen that journey. I know the emotional challenges that come with supporting teenagers on that journey. Wearing my educator hat, I also understand what are we doing in the classroom? Why are we teaching this curriculum or this content? So by merging those two worlds together, I believe that my commitment and my drive to pursue this work is more about being consciously aware of why I chose to be an educator right back when I started, and also understanding that the influence and the impact of the work that I'm doing today is actually positively attributing to the quality of life for the young people and the families, societies, and communities that the students I work with and interact with will have an impact on. Now, to answer the question of, how do I do that? I think in the work that I'm doing in helping young people discover their future careers and really understand the difference between, I want to go to university, can you help me get there, and let's look at employability, is understanding that you cannot just help a student without educating a family behind the student. And many students will come to ask for support from a mindset of going to university is something I have to do. For example, I had a conversation with a 16-year-old a couple of weeks ago, and I asked her, you know, have you thought about what you want to do when you graduate from high school or secondary school? And she told me, well, I'm going to university. And I said, have you ever really thought about the intention behind why you want to go to uni? And her response to me was, isn't that what I have to do? And I went, well, how do you know that's what you have to do? And she said, because no one gives us any other ideas. So we all assume that we have to go. And so when I'm helping students, I'm also re-educating parents. I'm re-educating the student and the parent at the same time and helping them to understand what is the intention behind what it is that you're trying to achieve. So if you want to go to university, let's unwrap the big why, right? And helping students and parents understand that getting an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree, or even going on to graduate school and getting a master's or 2 masters or 3, I've come across someone that even went for 3 masters, and then understanding, well, what is the intention? And when we answer that question, it always comes back to, I want my child, my son, my daughter to have a better job. So we have to redefine the intention as, okay, so if we're going to encourage young people to go on that post-secondary journey, then let's be clear about the intention. And the intention is a thriving career. And a thriving career means that the quality of life will align with the career purpose. So by doing that and by helping parents understand that, we're also helping that child. When you look at how do students make career decisions, the research clearly indicates that students don't make career decisions in isolation. They make career decisions based on the support from their influencers. And for many students, the influencers will come predominantly from their homes and their close society, the community within their homes. So you cannot approach a young person and help them on that career journey without understanding that it really means that you need to be supporting parents and educating parents, because that's where most of the influence will come from.
Good. Well, definitely, that's definitely right. Because one thing that I want to touch upon is the mention that you talk about the return on investment, which is the ROI for a lot of the parents. So when they send their kids to university, for instance, their goal is, I don't want to support my kid after college. At least my child after graduating college should be able to find work and should be able to be on their own feet and to be independent. But as we do this work, I know myself, I work also with a lot of young people, and you do. How do you make the call on helping the students finding, you know, the right major, the right campus environment, that when they get there, when they get to that door, they can thrive and do well?
So I want to backtrack again, and I know I keep backtracking, but I want to backtrack again. I think it's really important for your audience to remember that career direction and the influence by parents or communities is very, very subjective. And that means that from one family community to another, the intention for work and the ROI for their child to go to onto a thriving career will be very, very different. And that's why it's so important that when we are sitting down with a young person, that we don't just ask short-term outcome questions. For example, what do you want to do when you graduate, right? What do you want to study? Let's look at your transcript. Let's look at your grades. Oh, it looks like, you know, you're doing really well in maths and science. You should do 1, 2, 3, right? So when I'm sitting down with a student, the first few questions that I'm asking are inquiry questions about, tell me about your background. Let's go through your career family tree. Take me down the historical pathways of people in your family and those close friends that have gone on to work. What do you know about work? By having questions, by asking questions like that, I'm able to unwrap the subjective experience or the subjective expectations that a student might have put on them. And I help students to really understand that as well. So, in that first session, we're inquiring about, what do you believe that your parents want you to do? Or what do you think that, if you could make that choice that would be right for your family, what would that choice look like? How does that look different to your perspective? When students will tell me, I don't know what I want to do, but my parents are telling me I have to do this, then we talk about, okay, well, let's look at the why. And very often before I'll meet with a student, I'll have a conversation with a parent as well. And in the ideal situation, the ideal scenario, I'm working with parents and students together. So in my programs that I work with students, I don't provide fast food fix. So I love saying that. I'm not a McDonald's, drive-by fast food. Don't come to my window. You're not going to get the magic key and you're not going to walk away after 30 minutes and voila, you have the perfect career lined up for you. It's actual research. And I help students and parents understand that we wouldn't even purchase anything from a pen to a device to a pair of shoes without looking at reviews. We would not purchase anything, even food. Even if you decide to order something, you might look at, what have some people said about this restaurant? We look at, TripAdvisor before we go on a holiday destination. Yet we assume that students have to make career choices like that without doing the research. So helping students in that first session is about unwrapping the expectations, the assumptions, the community requirements, their beliefs about work, their intentions for work. And then from there, we start looking at discovering occupations. By discovering occupations, we're taking keywords. Keywords can be a hobby, it can be a subject, it can be an activity, it can be a job that they think they know about. And we really take it from there and we start unwrapping, okay, so if we looked at this, what could I do with this? And we start to learn about all the different occupations. And then from looking at occupations, we start to have students narrow down. And by narrowing down, that's when we start looking at more in-depth research. So those first 3 sessions, those could take weeks for a student to do the homework. And you also have to remember that in between these career conversations, there's a lot of other things happening. So very often when a student will tell me, I don't know what I want to do, we'll start having those conversations. And then for homework, I'll send them off to do some discovering. At the same time, I want you to go and watch this interview that I did with person X. And in that interview, we talk about how can we help you to look at this area. So it's not just one thing, it's a multitude of many different strategies that I take when I'm working with students. And it's about really understanding the theoretical perspective of career. So we also have to understand that in theory, a student at the age of 16 is in that exploratory stage. And in that exploratory stage of their life, that's the stage where they're not supposed to be making any definitive decisions for their life. They're really supposed to be exploring. But unfortunately, with the education system and that linear pathway of you have to go from point A, you have to go to point B, we're not allowing students to explore. We're enforcing this, you have to make a choice. And then on top of that, we're kind of making it even heavier by not allowing them to understand that a university degree is a really fancy word for professional development. It's an upskill. That's really what it is. It's a 3-4 year upskill. And for many of those undergraduate degrees, they are not directly linked to an employment, to a job, right? So at some point, the student needs to be given that flexibility to understand, hey, listen, you're in your exploratory age. Your job at this stage is not to make a choice for life. Your job at this stage is to discover, explore, try out, taste test, and begin to understand the first upskill that you want to embark on. And understand that by doing this first upskill, this is the direction that it most likely can lead you to. However, should you choose to go down that pathway, then you need to be informed about the occupations that might open up for you. Now, should you choose to try something different when you get to this point, then you want to make sure that you understand that every choice that you make in terms of your future education, if the intention is employment, that you should be informed about the intention for what you're learning and where it's going to lead you. Now, if a student were to come to me and say, Miss V, my intention is to gain knowledge, and I just really want to go to university. I am an academic. I love learning, and I really just want to spend 4 years learning as much knowledge as I can. I have no intention of working. My parents have no expectations on me to work. Then, hey, let's play. Let's find out what kind of learning that you want to go through. But most commonly, students go to university with the aspiration of getting a better job. And so it's my job in those sessions to always help a student to understand the theoretical perspectives of how to make career choices, the historical footpath of how work has evolved through time, and how it's normal not to be afraid of the future of work. All of this fear about the future of work and people are going to lose their jobs. Like, we need to normalize that work has always evolved, and then give students concrete strategies that will help them make those first choices. But you know, Jean-Louis, in reality, the work that I do with students and helping them learn and discover labor markets and jobs in demand and upskill, those are lifelong skills. They can actually use these strategies in their second career milestone, in their retirement, after retirement, building that third hustle, that second hustle. It's not limited to that first choice.
Okay.
I'm going to stop there. I keep talking.
It's great. It's great. I like it. But, you know, bearing in mind that there's this, you alluded to it, there's this big scare that with technology and how technology is advancing so rapidly, people sort of need to have very high, whether it's training or education in order for them to be able to compete at the level where that they become important. Because as we can see, you know, a lot of jobs use technology to make things a lot easier. So more people now are not getting employed as a result of that, especially for what we call the blue collar work. A lot of those have been replaced by automation. So how does your work tapping into that type of shift into the work market, and how you help your clients as far as to compete and to stay relevant?
So we have to remember that in the question that you're asking, there's an assumption that a student is in that same place of where an adult would be right now, right? So students are more adaptable than adults helping students on that journey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is interview a teenager and ask them what they want to do next month. And they'll look at you and say, I don't even know what I want to do this weekend. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that students are very adaptable. And we saw that through the pandemic. Now, I'm not saying that because they're adaptable, it's going to be easy. But what I am saying is that this fear of not finding a job is an adult-based fear of adults who were born in a time when technology wasn't in existence. So the adults that were born in that generation, I am one of those adults. When, you know, I think I was a teenager when we had that first computer. So I have been catching up, as everyone that I know in my adult world, we're constantly trying to catch up with technology. But the young students that I'm working with today, they're already ahead of the game, right? So the question isn't, are they going to be ready? The question is, are we helping them learn how to be resilient and adaptable? And in those skills of resilience and adaptability, are we teaching them strategies to be able to find problems and create solutions? Because whenever I interview talent finders or employers or managers or leaders in any capacity that do hiring, and I ask the question, if I were to give your top tips to a young person about what can they do to prepare for that future job in your company, what are some of your tips? They rarely tell me a degree. Most often, they tell me, I'm looking for a student that can transfer skills easily. I'm looking for students at future talent that will be adaptable. I'm looking for future talent that will be able to help me find solutions and be innovative and creative. Those are not degrees. Those are skills and strategies that we need to be teaching students. So when I'm helping a student prepare for that future career, the topic of will technology take your job doesn't even come into the conversation, because they're living in a world where what is this if there is no technology? So when you're doing the discovery and the research of careers, we are looking at labor markets and jobs in demand in the geographical location that a student wants to work in. And we are talking with people doing those jobs, because I would be lying to everyone if I said, I have a magic hat with all of the answers for all of the career problems. Of course not. The work that I do is not work that I do alone. I have to tap into my global community. So if I have a student that says, I want to be an aeronautical engineer, I need to make sure that I have 2 or 3 aeronautical engineers that can talk to this student about how technology is evolving in that field, and where in the world will there be more jobs in demand, and what that student should be doing to upskill, and what type of networking they need to be doing. That is preparing a student for the future of work. And another thing we have to remember is, I think at this stage of technology, there's like 2 ends of the spectrum. You've got one end of the spectrum of people running around like chickens without a head, panicking about, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're not going to find work. And then you have the other end of the spectrum of people going, we'll figure it out. We'll get it, we'll get it sorted. And you have teenagers kind of hovering between the 2 spectrums. So we're not going to benefit anybody by instilling fear in the future. And anyone worried about getting a job and losing a job, they're not 16, 17, or 18. They're 50 or 43 or 35 or 38. They're those older, more weathered career people. And that's why I'm saying, if we help young people at this stage learn about how can you be more adaptable, how do you look for more opportunities of work, how will work look different for you? Because maybe for your parents, they had to go to the office from 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but then things change. So work looks different. What are you thinking about in terms of your skills? Will you just have one job, or will you have several? Will you be working remotely, or will you be working within your own city? So that's what a career conversation evolves into. And I think that helping a young person prepare for their future career, if we don't want to tip them over and get them anxious and have them really tip over the negative end for their well-being, we can't scare them about the future. We have to prepare them for the next step. And for a young person, the next step is, what are we going to do when we graduate from high school? And what makes the most sense from the perspective that they're standing in? And what do we know about the next 5, 6, 7 years? And let's connect them with people doing those jobs, because who knows best about the occupation and technology than a person doing that job today?
Great insight, Maria. I know you are located, I don't know if you mentioned where your location is when you started, but please tell the audience where you are located, and if they would like to reach out to you, how they can reach you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm physically located in the United Arab Emirates. However, I work with families and students and institutions worldwide. So you can find me on my website, www.mariavitoriatos.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook, Careers with Miss V.
Ms. V, that was very insightful, a lot of great information. I mean, I would definitely like to have another chat sometimes, since you have a lot of information, and I'm sure there's more that you would like to say, but we would have to cut it short for today. So again, this is your host, Jean from Louis Educational Consulting here. This is another edition of Insights into College Admissions, where I invite professionals from the academic world, from higher education, to Ms. V, who helps students with career search and so forth. So if you have any questions and you would like for some help, please visit my website, louisedconsulting.com. There you can leave me the info page. You can leave me information on how to get back to you, or you can just shoot me an email at info@louisedconsulting.com. Thanks again, everyone who participated. I look forward to another edition soon. Thanks, Ms. V. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.